The Gospel according to John, chapter 13, passage 2, the betrayal of Judas. After saying this, Jesus was deeply moved and declared, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain whom he meant. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining on Jesus's chest. Simon Peter motioned to him and said, "Ask who it is he means." Leaning back against Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I will give a piece of bread after I have dipped it." So after dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. And after the piece of bread was eaten, Satan entered into him. Jesus then said to him, "What you are going to do, do quickly." But no one at the table understood why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him to buy what they needed for the feast, or to give something to the poor. He immediately went out after receiving the bread, and it was night. After Judas had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you a little while longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so now I tell you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Let's pause and reflect on these words. In this passage from the Gospel according to John, Jesus reveals Judas's betrayal during the Last Supper. Deeply moved, Jesus declares that one of his disciples will betray him. The disciples are confused and unsure about whom Jesus is speaking. John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, asks who it is. Jesus responds that it is the one for whom he will dip a piece of bread and give it to. After eating the bread, Satan enters Judas, and Jesus tells him to do what he intends to do quickly. The disciples do not understand why Jesus has said this, thinking perhaps Jesus told Judas to buy something necessary for the feast or to give something to the poor. Judas immediately leaves after eating the bread, and it was night. After Judas leaves, Jesus says that the Son of Man is now glorified, and God is glorified in him. Jesus emphasizes that his time with the disciples is short and gives them a new commandment to love one another as he has loved them. This new commandment of love is to be the distinguishing mark of his disciples. This passage highlights the dramatic moment of Judas's betrayal and simultaneously emphasizes the new commandment of love that Jesus gives to his disciples. It calls us to mutual love and devotion, which are to testify to our belonging to Jesus. If you find joy in our conversations, feel free to share them with your friends.